Hello, everyone from the Awaken Your Business Collaborative. It's Kim Duramo, and this is a special interview that I'm doing with Mark Romero, who is a beautiful man that has been assisting me in my alignment, in my harmonics, in my own ascension and awakening. And I wanted to bring Mark in to interview him for our group specifically because he has come from pretty conventional 3D structure, multi-million-dollar company. He's the CEO and kind of working it along those lines to having a huge awakening and these really profound gifts coming in that he himself didn't even understand. But making that transition to begin to create that as a business that contributes to others and put words to it and put structure around it and now let it be. It's his living, it's his livelihood, it's what he's doing with his life. And he's just such a great example of like, how do we make that transition? What can it look like? And how do we create structures that support us in sharing our gifts with the world? And how our own ascension and awakening will create that clarity and that like success, that real grounding of our business in the world. So I'm really excited to have Mark here to share his story, to share about his work, and to assist with what I think a lot of us are going through in this transition into a more awakened reality. So welcome, Mark.
Hey, Dr. Kim, so excited to be here. How are you?
I'm really glad to do this because we've been talking about it for a while, and yeah, we always have really expansive conversations, and now it's, we were sharing it with other people.
I know. I think that's great. I'm looking forward to our conversation and to see what unfolds.
Yeah. So will you share a little bit about that journey, like who you are, what you're doing, what your life is like, and then that journey of from A to B, and just some specifics of what that was like for you.
Gee, where would you like me to start first?
You can start with like where, yeah, maybe just go back to like, I think just a little intro beyond what I gave, maybe just a little like, here's what I'm doing. But then where were you and what were you doing and what was your life like then?
It's funny. I tell people I'm a recovered CEO, and I was 19 years in the high tech industry. I had a father who set this example. You go to work, you work hard, you work your way up the ladder. The higher up the ladder you get, of course, the more money you make, the happier you're going to be, the more fulfilled you'll be. And that was kind of the model I bought into. And that was really, kind of what was presented to us really in society. That's what we're supposed to go do, right? So I kind of followed in his footsteps. And, I got out of school and got a day job and started working my way up the ladder and really kind of found my place in sales. And of course, every great salesman, what do they make them? They make them become a sales manager, which wasn't as fun as sales because it's kind of like glorified babysitting sometimes. And salespeople can be so difficult. And then ultimately, became the CEO of my own company. I started in my garage, and in 5 years, we're probably doing about 15 million a year in sales. I mean, just phenomenal growth and tremendous financial success. But even in the course of that, there was this like just this discontent brewing within me. It was like, I'm achieving all this high. Why do I feel like something's missing in my life? Why do I feel like I was here for something more than just making money? And wait a second, I kind of felt like I'd kind of gotten ripped off because, we're all presented with this model that if you do that and accomplish these high levels of success, you'll be happy, content, fulfilled, and life will be joyful and you'll be living in Shangri La. And here I had done all that. I'm like, oh, wait a second, I'm in anything but Shangri La. And why am I feeling so dissatisfied? And there was this reoccurring theme. You're here for something more. And as I look back through those years, I always had this passion about helping people to work through their stuff, where they get stuck. We all get stuck on our journey in life at one time or another, or many times actually in our experience as we move forward. And even through my management years, I was coaching people, really life coaching, even though they were my salespeople, were on my team, and helping them to create breakthroughs and have ahas and realizations. So there was always this passionate. Plus, that combined with a passion to really understand what are the mysteries of life. Why are we really here? These were things that were always huge parts of my cosmology, so to speak. And so I kind of came to a point, I came home and my wife Lara was in the hallway and she had this look on her face. And at this point in our marriage, I'd seen this look many times already, and I certainly have seen it many times since. It's I'm going to hit you with some truth look. And she just got up in my face and she said, "You know what? I don't care how much money you're making. I look in your eyes and you're dead. When are you going to have the courage to go for the dream?" Because I wanted to help change people's lives. I wanted to become a motivational speaker. That was my dream way back when. And I'm like, oh man, immediately, as like any good husband, you try to find fault with what was presented to you. But then, like any really good husband, you realize, what's the point, dude? You're wrong again. And it's like 573 to 2. Just own it and realize that, yeah, she was right. Here I was, I think 40 years old, I think at the time, and just like going, I can't do this anymore. You know, I'm miserable, I'm unhappy, I'm unhealthy, I'm unfulfilled. You know, I got to go find my purpose and step into that purpose, which at the time I thought was, being kind of like a traditional motivational speaker guy. And little did I know what would unfold on the journey. So I left. I took the ultimate leap of faith. I had a nice chunk of change in in my savings account, and I stayed on a year after to finish my contract, and then I was out. I left, and I started becoming a motivational speaker and speaking for associations and things like that. And around that same time, I came out with my very first album that I made completely for fun, just to have the experience of making an album. I've been playing guitar forever, since high school, and that album changed my life and opened me up to um, my healing gift and really, in essence, my true life purpose, which wasn't just speaking and pontificating words of wisdom from the stage, which is
That's
great. And
just
I
what we
still love,
need. More people speaking information. No.
I know, little did I realize that, oh, there's a whole nother level of information and that can be really shared with people that goes so much be- beyond any spoken word or anything to that effect. So I made that album, like I said, just to have fun, not with any intention of getting in the music business. I never even wanted to play music in front of people. I could speak in front of 1,000 people, feel like a fish in water. You know, put a guitar in my hand and two people in the room, and I became the shy kid. So that was not part of my plan. And I think one of the things is that chances are your plan is probably not the exact plan that the universe has for you when you make the decision to step into your purpose, your passion, and your calling. And how it's going to unfold and how it's going to look is going to be completely different than the attachments that we sometimes have, when we step into these things. So um, that CD ended up getting in the hands of a gentleman by the name of Dr. Ronald Jones, who was a former top consultant to NASA. He's one of those guys who had more letters after his last name than his last name itself. And he was really working on some high end energy stuff, quantum physics. And he invited me to a lecture. And I came to that lecture, and it was like my Energy 101 workshop. I'd never heard of quantum physics. I'd never thought of looking at myself as anything more than what I see in the mirror, what I experience through my senses. But that night I learned that there's so much more to who and what we are and how we're being impacted by things in our environment and our own thinking processes. But what really blew me away that night was halfway through the program, they had me come up and they start playing music, and I see people's physiological state, their strength, their flexibility, their endurance, their coordination and balance all instantly get transformed as I start playing guitar. And I'm like, going, what the heck is
And they
this?
were measuring those things. They had like some kind of devices. They were measuring them. It was not that you just saw them.
No, they were measuring. They were doing like range of motion, flexibility testing, applied kinesiology, all kinds of different physical testing. And they were demonstrating how things we use every day compromise our energy and make us weaker and actually take us out of a harmonized state. So if we think of the guitar, the guitar is great. It's a beautiful instrument, and You could be the best guitarist in the world, but if your strings aren't in tune, are you going to play beautiful music or create what you truly have the ability to create? No, you're not going to. I don't care how well. You can play like Andre Segovia. If that guitar is not in tune, you're never going to play beautiful music or reach your potential. And we are all going through life in a state of disharmony. And then we wonder why we struggle to create shifts, healings, breakthroughs in our lives. And so that night I learned that my music was harmonizing in nature and opened me up to a whole new thing. Dr. Jones was kind of like this, eccentric scientific guy. I was convinced he was from another planet and that maybe he had taken too much LSD back in the 60s or something, which is kind of funny. I even said that to him. He said, yeah, well, that very well might be true, but that has nothing to do with what we're talking about here. So, I mean, he was one of the very expansive, very talented energy worker. I mean, he could look in your field and see back what happened when you were 4 years old and pull it out of your field of information. I mean, it was mind blowing. And,
To
you
you
know,
at that time, especially.
I was like totally like, whoa, and then very resistant to it too, you know. And I kind of have to preface it with this story. I mean, Lara was pregnant 8 months with our first daughter, Olivia. And, month eight, man, things get uncomfortable. There's not a lot of wiggle room in there. Counting down, firstborn, 4 weeks to go at 7 o'clock at night. Every night, Olivia being there, decided to do her calisthenic routine. So mom's on the bed in misery, discomfort, going, oh my God, I'm not going to make it another 4 weeks. This baby needs to come out now, you know. So one night she goes, hon, would you just put your hand on my tummy? And so I did, and it would be instant peace and quiet. And after night two, the same thing. Night three, the same thing. After like 5 nights in a row, hand on tummy, instant peace and quiet. She goes to me, you know you're a healer, don't you? And I said, hon, don't talk to me about that healing stuff, man. That's the kind of stuff, they take you out in the backyard, they tie you to the tree, and they set you on fire, man. I don't want nothing to do with stuff like that. And then, of course, being married to a doctor of metaphysics, what does she tell me? I think you might have some past life issues to resolve. Well, if you ever want to make the CEO guy or mainstream dude run down the hallway in fear with his fingers in the ear going, la, 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 I can't hear you, you tell him he has past life issues. And that's what I did. It's really kind of sad to think about now. But, I wanted nothing to do with that. And then, of course, what does the guy from NASA tell me? Oh, your music's healing. I'm like, oh, great. Just when I thought I had gotten away from it, there is no getting away from it. And so that opened up a whole new kind of like chapter and journey to not only realizing my ability to put harmonizing energy into music, but in reality that I was a channel for harmonizing energetic frequencies, which I didn't realize till later, a little later down the road, but changed my life and what I do and the work that I do today. And it was kind of reminds me of times kind of like, what's that ride at Disneyland? Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, it's not always what you ever could have expected, especially in the space that you were in. There was resistance to,
Oh,
yeah, I'm going to embrace my passion. And I was writing notes down the whole time you're talking, because for a lot of us, when we have that awakening to like, wait a minute, there's more to life going on here. There's something more I have to share. The go-to thought is, I'm going to be a motivational speaker, because in the construct of reality we're given, there's like accountant, or I'm going to be a hairstylist, or I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be blah blah blah. And then there's this thing, motivational speaker, and that kind of encapsulates the whole realm of like whatever, all that stuff, living your higher purpose. And
hmm,
that's like the catchphrase for, that's like the one thing people know in that reality. And it isn't even necessarily a good thing. It's like, yeah, rah, 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 get the room up and rah, rah. And then you go home and you're just like back where you were before. But
right.
that's why when so many people awaken, they have that idea, I want to be a motivational speaker. And you've got to kind of do the work to carve out, well, like, what is that really wants to come through? Because yes, it's on the frequency of authentic expression that inspires and elevates others, but it doesn't necessarily look like motivational speaker. And for you, of course, it really didn't look anything like that at all.
No.
And so how did you then like cultivate what that gift was and how to actually bring it in a tangible structure to assist others?
Well, it's funny. I fought it, tooth and nail. I remember after I met Doc and he told me all this stuff, and he called me up one day and said, yeah, we want to buy like 1,000 CDs from you and start selling them. And I'm like, oh, okay, that I understand. Not so sure about all the other stuff. So it kind of launched me into it, but I was very resistant. And one day I actually said, you know what? I don't want anything to do with this frequency healing stuff in my music. I just assume turn it off. And literally within 5 minutes, my phone rings and it's Doc. What's going on? I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, I just detected a fluctuation like in your quantum field. And I'm on the other end. What the? I mean, I was freaked out. He said, you need to come sit down with me. Come sit down with me in the office. And he actually had an office here local by where I live. And I go sit down with him. He said, Mark, we have two choices in life. Either one, you step into your gift and what you were meant here to do, and you bring it forward for the betterment of humanity. Or two, you live a life of misery trying to deny it. What would you rather do? And of course, being kind of the smart ass I was at the time, I told him, Doc, I really like option three. He goes, what's option three? None of the above. And he said, sorry, there is no option three. And I'm like, okay, I'll step into it. So it was really kind of a process of stepping into it on and off. And what started happening was, I started doing sound healing kind of like events for associations and stuff to help reduce stress and things. And I remember I did a post on Twitter way back when. It's like when Twitter first started, I think. And I said, hey, I just did this thing for this group of women bankers. And a lady sends me a note. What? You just went and did this kind of work for the most left-brain group of women in the universe? We need to talk. And she lived local. We ended up sitting down for lunch. I found out she hosted this huge telesummit way back when. And I demonstrated the music, which shifts the physiology, which is always great when you can bring it into the senses and give people an experience of the energy work through their senses. And she goes, I need to get you on the show. And so she said, my season's full, but we're going to definitely get you on the next season. Well, she called me up 2 days later. Gary Zukov canceled his spot. What do you think about taking it? And I said, okay, well, what do you got? I said, I got these 4 CDs and some MP3 downloads. Okay, let's do that. How many units do you have? I said, like maybe 110 units. Oh, nobody knows who you are. That's perfect. Let's sell it for $97. We'll do a split. Okay. I didn't even know what a telesummit was. Get on our interview on a Thursday, talking about the music, the energy, the whole story about NASA and everything. And after the interview, I'm looking at my phone and I see these orders start popping in. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I've never seen that before. How cool is that? I'm kind of this neat. 5 orders came in. I set it down, go about, do my stuff. I come back later, check my email. 27 orders show up. Oh, wow, man, this is like really cool. And then I go to bed that night, Thursday night, wake up in the morning, like 175 orders just pop in. I'm like, oh, whoa, wait a second. I'm already like beyond what I have stock in. This like they didn't have MP3 downloads back then.
Right.
I'm like, oh my God. And then like check later by the end of the weekend, we had just sold shy of 1,000 units. And I'm like scrambling, ordering CDs the next week, got the whole family down boxing and shipping because it was like crazy. And it was really a great demonstration of what happens when you step into what you're supposed to be, you know. So needless to say, I had some big situations and challenges that were going on, and I just said, okay, I'm willing to embody and step into what I'm doing. Do the interview, and that kind of breakthrough happens. And that kind of put me on the map really as kind of a sound healer, even though it's really so much more than that. And kind of led me off on this direction of where I started selling my music online, doing telesummits, interview series, different kinds of things, and making people aware and sharing what I learned from the scientists, and people loved it, and started grabbing up music left and right. And little did I know that I would sell what was initially a hobby all over the world. And it was just kind of like, oh my gosh, amazing how life works, you know. So that's kind of how I emerged into it. And then
Kicking
from
and screaming the whole way.
and you would think that would be like an excellent demonstration. Like, could you ever have doubt or lack of faith after something like that? Oh yeah, I still kicked and screamed later down the road. It's like all of a sudden, oh, now I understand the whole story of, Moses taking the Jews out of Egypt and stuff and how they would lack faith. And I used to get upset at that story going, how could they lack faith when they see all these miracles? Well, now I understand. Oh, it's real easy to,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it really is. We still get our humanity comes along with us on the journey.
Yeah, that's why you gotta commit to the journey and let it be about the journey, not the destination.
Right.
Because that's where it will always get glitchy. That's always where it gets glitchy for me. If I'm focusing on the destination, it's glitch, 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 and you've activated like a lot of really powerful synchronicities, even though there wasn't like total willingness. When you committed to like, all right, I'm gonna live my gift, even begrudgingly, but you had a willingness like, all right, I'm gonna step out of this and live my gift or do something more expansive or however you want to state it. It really activates, especially in the early stages, those
Hmm.
synchronicities that like get the momentum going. Like, okay, he said he's willing, let's get this going and get you over onto that track. And then, everything that happens along the way that is the journey of that.
Right.
And I think like that's the other thing I wrote down was when you talked about it, it's not according to right. It is always going to be, whatever that essence of the yes is, like, yes, I'm ready to step into something more expansive, and then let go of all the specifics of what you think that is or what that looks like or the how that's going to go, and know that it might be something that you're like, oh no, I'm not going to do that, but it will absolutely be aligned with the yes and with the expansion and with the freedom that you are choosing.
Right. Or even what you're really inspired to do. Like for me, I wanted to help change people's lives. I wanted to help people to heal, transform, open to higher levels of consciousness and awareness. And I saw that being done through my attachment, through pontificating my words of wisdom. Yes, going to instantly create change in the room by just speaking. Well, sometimes the universe laughs at our attachments. I think probably laughs daily at our attachments. It says, no, there's a whole nother level of power that goes beyond anything that could ever be transmitted through a spoken word. And I thought, wow, you know, and, so it was really kind of a whole nother level. And it's funny because the plot kind of thickens because even though it was the music, there was a way for me to separate myself from it. Oh, it's the music. Maybe it's the type of guitar I play. Maybe it's the specific notes I'm playing that create this healing thing.
It's a magical guitar, not a magical mark.
Yeah, I forget it. No, it had nothing to do with Mark. It was the guitar, man. It was handmade by this really cool dude in Spain. And that this was some of the story that went through my head about that. And then, of course, leave it to my wife, Lara, once again, always pushing my buttons. She calls me up from the park one day. She's up at the park picking up the kids from school. And she goes, oh, I just got this intuitive hit. And I'm like, okay, what's that? She goes, I don't think you need the guitar to do this work. I said, well, what do you mean? She goes, I want you to remotely send energy to my friend here at the park. And at this point in our marriage, I'd already learned the two most powerful words in a successful relationship, yes, dear. And so I said, yes, dear. And I, I sent energy. And a mile and a half away, instantaneously, her friend had a complete physiological, measurable shift and change in her energy. And she gets back on the phone. I knew it. It's not the guitar, it's you. And I'm like, she goes, I've got these crackers here. Send energy to the crackers. Because she'd bring snacks up for the kids while they're at the park. Send energy to the crackers. She gives a cracker to another lady at the park. Instant physiological shift from just eating the cracker. The poor woman's like, oh, what kind of cracker is that? I've never had a cracker that instantly shifts my physicality. And she goes, oh my gosh, you can infuse energy into things. And it was like such, first of all, it scared the heck out of me. And I don't think I told anybody for like a year. after that. I was just going to stick to the music thing, just do the
That was
music.
weird enough already.
Yes. And I'm like, I don't want to go down this next path. And then, over time, of course, we start getting the heating and the callings, you need to be true to all these aspects and facets. And, and all kinds of things began to come in. I began to start having conversations with people. Initially, I would have conversations with people and I would hear in their voice where they were out of tune. And it was like, oh, I could create, this person needs self confidence, or this person needs to love themselves more. This person needs to do some forgiveness work. And it opened up kind of a whole new level of the work. And interestingly enough, from a conversation with Dr. Jones, he said, Mark, what do you think is the most powerful energy disruptor in the whole universe? And I'm thinking, Doc used to work with NASA. It's got to be like gamma radiation, something like that. He said, nope. The most powerful energy disruptor of them all are our own limiting thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions, the stories that we're not good enough, not divine enough, not holy enough, not healthy enough, whatever. All that stuff, all of those are energy disruptors and put us into a state of disharmony. So out of that conversation, I'm like going, man, and what I was hearing in people's conversation, what would happen if I started playing music to people's stuff? And my very first time I ever did this, got the intuitive hit, young lady came to me and she said, you know what? For the last 10 years, I've been attracting the same kind of man in my relationship. Different body, but not respectful, not supportive, not all this stuff, reoccurring pattern, right, over a 10-year period. And so she's telling me this, I'm hearing resentment, anger. She's just broadcasting it through her voice in the underlying tones of her voice. And I said, you know what? I said, are you open to, and it ended up being against her dad. It's dads, we get the bad rap. Um, you know, 10 years of just, crazy, not very supportive relationship or communication between the two. And I said, are you open to forgiving your father? And she said, you know what, I am. I said, you know what? I just got this idea. I'm going to play you a piece of music on forgiveness. I'm going to record it in the studio and I'm going to send it to you. And so I sent it to her. I said, here, just play this in the space. Let's see what happens. And 2 days later, she calls me up. Mark, you're not going to believe this. I said, what's up? She goes, my dad called me today out of the blue and said, you know what? 10 years is way too long to have unresolved issues between us. Are you open to sitting down and talking about forgiveness and reconciliation? She goes, you don't understand it. My dad is like macho man guy. He would never do anything like that. I said, the biggest realization that we all need to learn is that the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. You set an intention to forgive. You worked with this frequency and this energy, and then what shows up? An opportunity to forgive the one man in your life that you need to forgive in order to create that healthy, loving relationship that you truly desire. And so it opened that whole opportunity up. And she ended up doing work with her dad and incorporating another level of forgiveness work, and then ultimately opening up to creating a healthy, loving relationship. And so that's when I really started to learn, oh my gosh, this goes beyond just, eliminating the negative effects of chemicals and cell phones and Wi-Fi in our environment, which is what the scientists were first involved with. It opens up to also eliminating the effects of the most potent energy disruptor of them all. The stories that we all have to one degree or another about our humanity, and our limitations and all the stuff that we learn from age 0 to 7 when we're like these programmable machines, from our parents, from the media, from school. And, if you don't get straight A's, then you're dumb and less than. I mean, all these things we pick up. And then at some point in our life, we come up and kind of go, gosh, I really want to create some shifts and some changes in my life. I'm experiencing this disharmony. Maybe it'd be good to let go of that old stuff. And so that's where kind of was the next evolution of the work into, helping people to shift and change and heal and transform and unveil the masterpiece that's within each and every one of us.
So it guided you. It guided you into what this work wanted to be.
Yeah, I laughed just because anytime I would try to veer off, you know, nothing would work. So I would always have to come back, because I still
Yeah,
had
and
my
a
own.
lot of times we want it to be this concrete thing. We can say, hey, I'm going to give you this. When I had my osteopathic practice and was doing this more expansive thing, I shared the office. Someone rented space for me. She was an acupuncturist.
Hmm.
And I remember so often thinking, oh, I wish I could just do this thing like she's doing. It's like, you're going to, pay me and I'm going to give you this acupuncture and put X amount of needles to treat your back pain. Or like, it was such more of a tangible exchange. And then I'm like, what the heck am I doing? I can't even speak to it. And so it felt like, oh, that's so much harder. Even though I wouldn't have actually wanted to go into that, I knew underneath it's like, no, that would be way too limiting a scope, a structure for me to practice in. And even my osteopathic practice became really too limited. But yeah, there was that feeling of like, I don't understand this. Why do I have to do this? Can't I just do this other thing?
Yeah, and and then I tell people, I say, if you ever really want to truly get on the front line of evolving and ascending your consciousness, go pursue your life purpose, because then it brings all this opportunity to heal. It brought me opportunity to heal things that I would have never had to heal when I was selling computer chips. I mean, selling computer chips was easy. There's no personal attachment. I didn't make it. There was nothing to it whatsoever. But I remember selling my first CD for $15 and going, my CD's $15. What if they say no? I'll feel rejected, and all that stuff came in. None of that stuff shows up when you got a day job. But when you go pursue your purpose, oh my God, it opens up so many opportunities for healing and transformation.
Yes. Just like your marriage. When you marry like a true divine partner, it's the same thing. Well, I know we wanted to do like a tuning in this session together. And I think, and I'm actually thinking of sharing this with like a broader audience too, because I think it's going to benefit so many people. And so for practitioners and for like everyone who's here that's empathic and that takes on other people's energies and that actually has a real heart for assisting others and they care so deeply that it can be painful, to do like a tuning for how we own our own power and letting that be seen to a higher degree, like honoring who we are in the way we interact with others and honoring who we are and letting this gift we each have show up. Does that make any sense?
Hmm. It does. You
I
hit
think
on
you
a
can
couple
do
of key
that.
things though, because you brought up this part about being empathic and picking up other people's stuff,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because this has been something that's come up recently and I've seen it. And there was a lady who said this to me just the other day. And she said, I pick up other people's stuff. And I told her, I said, well, why don't you stop picking up other people's stuff? Well, what do you mean? I'm empathic. I said, I want you to look at your languaging. I pick up other people's stuff. I said, pick up means that you actually have to bend over and pick it up off the ground. I said,
Yeah.
what if you don't have to pick it up? What if there was a way for you not have to pick up other people's stuff and do your healing and transformational work? There's a part of you that still believed.
Yeah. It's down there and I bring it up here and that's how I help others versus I shine my light and honor myself implicitly. And that's what assists others.
I mean, there are sensitivities without a doubt, and there are things that we can do to make sure that we keep our energy optimized. And we have to do those things. We have to tune our strings all the time. I just don't tune my guitar strings once and then never tune them again. I have to tune them continuously, as we do, all of us do as human beings, but also as practitioners and people that are involved in this type of work. We have to take daily practice and making sure, through meditation, through prayer, through getting out in nature, taking salt baths, whatever it might be, whatever resonates with you, to keep yourself optimized, you know, as much as possible. And it's an ongoing practice and commitment.
Yeah. And it's not a matter of okay, I'm going to take on everybody else's stuff, and then I'm going to take care of myself. And there's like two separate things. It's a matter of operating in the world um, as an awakened being and not do it in duality where it's like, oh, all this heavy energy, all this bad thing, or people are in this bad space and I'm going to help them feel better. And I'm this, healer and I'm going to help them and give them this thing. But to actually do it in unity consciousness, which is really what the collaborative is all about, is stepping into unity consciousness and doing your work to assist others from that space, from the space of as I embody my wholeness and connect to source within, it assists each individual that I'm working with in doing the same. I see them whole and I invite them to step into knowing their wholeness as well. So
Hmm.
then I'm not depleted as I do my work and then I got to go over there and refuel and take a break. I'm more whole as I practice my work. That's the biggest difference in being an awakened practitioner or being still in duality and getting exhausted.
Well, and then that was a big part of what I had to work through in my journey because when I first left, I was using, for lack of better terms, third dimensional business techniques and tactics to try to be successful in this realm, and it doesn't work. Those are obsolete. Those become obsolete.
Yeah.
You know, it's like trying to use 85.5 on the FM radio dial techniques when you're operating at 102.7. It They don't translate to each other. And, but wait a second, I was a CEO of a multi-million dollar business. I had 19 years of track record of using these types of techniques to be successful and create results. Every single one of them became obsolete. And part of that is the hard work, pushing, having to go after to get it, order now because the offer expires in the next 5 minutes, that type of whole thing, like what I used to do back in the old days, and the stuff worked.
Fear-based marketing. It's all in
Yeah.
separation and fear.
Yep. And that's the other thing when you're bringing in, once again, for lack of better terms, a fifth dimensional gift, frequency, energy concept and squeezing it into a third dimensional world, you can't use those third dimensional techniques, you know, anymore. And it's interesting because you brought something up you said earlier about capturing what I do in words. Can I just tell you how many years I battered myself trying to capture what I did in words, and never found, oh, I would just come up with one thing one day and then the next day it wouldn't feel right. And why is that? And then one day I got this like insight. You're taking a fifth dimensional construct and squeezing it into a third dimensional world. What makes you think that third dimensional words are going to be able to capture what you're bringing in?
Yeah.
And that to me was a huge realization and
Yeah.
aha,
It,
you
it can
know?
only point to it. It can only, and if you are resonating with the gift that you are, it will point to it in a way that has others go, yeah, I get that. I want to choose that. Even if they don't understand it, they can resonate with it and know and choose it and receive it.
Right. One, I think, it's like something that you said, and there's an analogy that showed up in my head as you were talking about it, is like each of us that do what we do, you're a light bulb, okay? Light in a dark room. What happens when you turn the light on? Where does the darkness go? It leaves. It's so simple of an analogy. And that's in essence what we really all are. You hear terms like light worker and stuff like that. You're shining your light. So the real true key is to be your authentic self, is to be who and what you really are, and to reflect and to shine that light out into the world. And that is what people are attracted to, and that is what changes and transforms people that are in that room, you know, wherever you're shining your light. And you don't even need to say anything. You just show up in the space. And
Right. That's
people,
why it can happen so powerfully that people know, like, yeah, I want to work with him. Yeah, I want to do this. And they don't have to understand it before they know it.
that's correct. Like I said, there's what we perceive through our senses is this very minute spectrum of vibrational information. Meanwhile, there's this, it goes on for infinity, frequency wise. But here we are living in this little very small slice of information, but
Yeah.
there's so much more out here, so
But
much
and
more
that's
that we can
exactly
perceive.
why when I created the Global Expansion Summit, it was based on that concept of knowing there are other people who are also working in expansion and in unity consciousness, and if we collaborated, we could truly shift the world on its axis and create a global transformation. And know that the power that we create in our work is infinite, and so what we can do together is like unthinkable.
Well, it's
I'm glad I
basically
found people like you. And
one, I love that, and it's so funny. I smile because for years I've been saying, you have to be true to your own light, get the stuff out of the way that's preventing you from shining it, all the little pieces that hide us from who we really are, and shine that light, and how that becomes a catalyst for transformation and change, not only in our experience, but in the world around us. And if we were to collect hundreds and thousands of people who were committed to bringing their authentic self forward and shining their light, well, all of a sudden, that's not just one light bulb in a dark room.
yeah,
That's like stadium lights. That's like the sun coming up and shining
yeah.
darkness in this whole
It
area.
allows the darkness to release in a way that has people who aren't even maybe close to awakening to begin to awaken and say, wait a minute, I am powerful.
Yeah,
I don't
why
have
is
to
this all
buy
of a sudden not
it.
feeling right? Why is my living my life this way, or drinking that six pack at night not just working for me anymore? Why am I like all of a sudden discontent in my career, even though I'm making all this great money or whatever? Why is that? And those are the types of things that start to
What else could I do anyway? I'm not cut out for anything other than this.
exactly. But those are one of the analogies I've used over the years is that's why we experience challenges. That's why we have disharmony that shows up in our life. That disharmony, those are like indicator lights on the dashboard of your car. When you're driving down the street in your car and the oil light comes on, what do? You know, well, you realize that there's something that needs to be let go in the vehicle and replaced with something new, you
Yeah.
know. Unfortunately, we live in a world where, oh, let me get some tape. I know I got some tape. I'm just going to put some tape over that light so I don't have to look at it anymore. It's bugging me. And then we tape it. And then we wonder, you don't want to do that because the universe really comes with a big volume knob and
Yeah.
it's going to crank the volume until it gets your attention. All of a sudden, there's going to
Well,
be
and I
more
think
lights coming
knowing
on.
like that there are resources out there. So many people were living so much survival. We don't realize there is a solution beyond the tape. We're like, just get me through, just get me through, not realizing like, oh no, you can do way better than that. And it's here and it's now and
Yeah.
it's okay to operate at that level. Well, let's do this tuning and offer people that experience of receiving the essence of your work.
I know exactly where we start. And that would be with, probably the most powerful thing that we can do as being these magnificent expressions of divine source energy of life, of the universe, is to step into our power and to set an intention and say, hey, you know what? I'm setting the intention to reveal my masterpiece, to get in alignment with who I really am, to have the courage to express that and to shine my light into the world, and also the commitment to work through whatever shows up in the way that gets in the way of that process and to be able to work through it and look at those challenges and those obstacles as arise as ultimately as opportunities as opposed to pains in the posterior or some kind of indicator that we're broken or not enough or wherever we go in our mental constructs, when those challenges in our life arise. So how does that sound?
Amazing.
Well, why not? If we're going to set intentions, let's set big intentions.
Yes.
Oh, good. I expect no less from you to be on board for big intentions. So,
I
so,
already wrote it down.
so what I invite everybody to do, of course, if you're not driving, um, just close your eyes. If you're comfortable, just kind of take some deep breaths. kind of relax. Just breathe. Take a deep open mouth inhale. Open mouth, let it go. All great journeys begin with an intention. A request. An order. So are you willing right here, right now, to unveil another piece of your divine mastery? To tap into another level of your power. Take another deep breath. Open up to shining your light. And reflecting your authentic self. Out into the world. To move past the fear and all the stories that somehow say you're not worthy of that. Nothing could be further from the truth. Take another deep breath. And just embody that for yourself. Take another breath. Open mouth, let it go. And just begin to gently bring yourself back. And intentions are great. Certainly a necessary part of the manifestation, creation, stepping into our power process. But there also comes that part where we have to kind of combine it in this physical world. And I always like to have people take on a random act of self-love for themselves. It's kind of like it's kind of like an embodiment of the intention set that's in the physical world, but also in the spiritual world. So what can you do in the next day? You know, just an act of self-love. You know, get out in nature, take a salt bath, get a massage, you know, write 10 things you love and appreciate about yourself in a journal, whatever it might be, and take on that specific action step. And then look to see what shows up. What synchronicity, what ahas, what realizations do you have? What reoccurring themes do you see in the course of your day? And follow them along and see where they lead you. I remember when I was angry youth kid, and I remember I used to get upset. Why doesn't God just pick up the phone and call me? You know, yes, Mark. You know, if you want to change and improve your life, you should probably like not go out with that girl anymore and quit doing those things and don't hang out with those guys anymore. You know, but I never got the call, and I used to get so upset about it. And I realized, you know, the call comes every day, and it comes through observing those synchronicities and those little reoccurring themes. Those are what I call the breadcrumbs that are going to lead you on this journey to accomplishing the overall intention, which was to reveal our true authentic self, to shine our light brighter and brighter, to work past the stuff that shows up on the way, you know, that we get to purify ourselves of as we move forward. So there you go.
Thank you.
My
But that was
pleasure.
beautiful. They're always really, really like beautiful and harmonic, and you can feel it. And so, you know, when this is recorded now, so people can take that and do a daily meditation, spend some time with that section of it every day to let that new frequency come through, because your cells receive energy, even
Mm-hmm.
if it's something you eat. Physically, it's converted to energy, so your cells are nurtured. And this is like a direct energetic nurturance in a specific way. So yeah, the invitation for everyone is to let that in and use that as often as you like to let that balancing happen and stepping into a new harmonic in your life. And Mark, where is the best way for people to reach out to you or find more? I know markromeromusic.com is your
Mm-hmm.
site. And is there
And
a good way for them to, yeah,
well, you know, that's my name across the board. So like Facebook and Instagram and all those stuffs, all Mark Romero Music, YouTube. Those are all great places to check out and experience other pieces of music and little pieces to support you and, you know, getting in touch with your authentic self and bringing your music out. Then, of course, if you want to email me, you can always email me at support@markromeromusic.com. And that's a great place if you want to reach out the good old fashioned email way or through any of the social media or through the website itself. So there you go,
and
markromeromusic.com.
you're in the collaborative now, so people can reach out to you directly within the Awaken Collaborative Facebook group that we have for that program.
I'm in the
Um,
Awaken Collaborative. Yes, thank you.
and you'll be at the summit, which is another big thing I wanted to share with everyone, that Mark is going to be assisting with holding the space and contributing a big part of what's being integrated at the Global Expansion Summit. So for practitioners who are ready to be a part of that, it's at drkimd.com/summit. And the collaborative, well, we're going to share this in the collaborative, but I do think I'm going to post this video elsewhere too. So that's at drkimd.com/collaborative. I know there's a lot you're doing in the world, so people can work with you privately. That's what I have done, and it's been amazing, or we wouldn't be having a conversation. And yeah, just that whether people meet you or not, they're experiencing what your contribution is, which is really what being a 5D practitioner is that you're operating in unity consciousness, and you're affecting every single person on the planet with everything that you do. So I just want to say thank you, because I know it was a rocky journey for you to say yes to this calling. And I'm really glad that you've done that, because it's laying the groove for so many of us who are like, you know, for me, I was a doctor and I already knew I was here to, you know, assist humanity in a big way, even though I didn't know what that looked like. But for other people, it's like, I'm a soccer mom, or I'm an accountant, or I'm, you know, whatever that seems completely unrelated to being a healer in some way and contributing in that way. And you're a really great example of that, and someone who's stepped into such a powerful gift. So
Well,
thank
and
you
I
so
think
much.
it's important what you just brought up because all of those people, no matter what we do, we're all like pieces in the puzzle of this thing called global transformation and change. So, when you're doing a puzzle, does it matter if one piece is missing? No, they all need to be in place. They all have this importance in this role. So I think it's so essential, regardless of what roles you're playing in life, because I play father and, there are different roles that I play in my life beyond, being energy, light worker, healer dude. you know?
Yeah, and it's okay to not, like you said, have the words that do it for you. Like it's the resonance of who you are, and the words point to that. And I think for a lot of people in the collaborative, that's going to be huge assistance because, we all want to be able to like clearly share what we do, but then remembering like, well, no, there's another dimension to it, to what's being shared. And like whatever words you use are carrying the resonance of your own grounding into that.
Well,
So,
not only that, and realize that what you share also goes beyond words.
yeah.
It's just your state of being. If we go back to that light bulb analogy, you know, is that light just shines light. The light doesn't say anything. It just shines its light. It just is.
Yeah.
And then yeah, we all have different degrees in the dimmer, and the more that we work on our stuff, the brighter our light becomes and the more powerful it becomes and the more that it lights up the room and impacts every single person that's in that room, in our space, in our circumference. I think we would be just so blown away and surprised how much we impact the whole universe by being true to who and what we are.
Amen. And
Yeah,
that's what lets the synchronicities come in, which you've had some really great ones.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us. And Mark, you're awesome. And I'm so glad that we're friends and that we're doing work together and that we created this to share with other people.
Me too. And I just want to thank you, for everything that you do and what you take a stand for and just really hold the space. I honor what you're doing is so important. And of course, want to continue to encourage you to shine your light brighter and brighter and brighter, so like I have to wear sunglasses every time I talk to you on video conference calls.
You got it. Yes.
All right.
All right. Lots of love.
Thank you.